Just when you thought that Lucasfilm could not make a bigger mess, as Kathleen Kennedy, we assume, is going out the door at some point in the future, well, check out the Ahsoka trailer. It seems that Star Wars has gone full girl boss mode, as the girl boss that runs Lucasfilm may be on the way out. We'll talk about it right now. All right, folks, welcome back to another fantastic day here on the WDW Pro channel. Each and every day, we are attempting to explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve. We endeavor to do that with a degree of excellency you may not find elsewhere. Folks, if you like content like that, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. And when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Joining me today to discuss the Ahsoka trailer, The Acolyte, and where Lucasfilm is going, we have Jonas J. Campbell, investigative reporter for That Park Place, as well as the one and only script doctor, who I assume, once this writer's strike is over, will be doctoring scripts, shall I say, doctoring scripts yet once more. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
Good to be here.
Well, let's dive into this article out of ScreenRant. Folks, if you've not yet seen the trailer for Ahsoka, it's worth seeing, even if the show is not, but we'll start with the article. This out of ScreenRant by Lewis Glazebrook. Ahsoka sets up a Star Wars Rebels retcon with Ezra Bridger. The official trailer for the upcoming Ahsoka show has been released and hints at a major Star Wars Rebel retcon involving Ezra and Sabine.
Now, let me
ahead.
ask you right here, that picture right there, I don't know if anyone notices this. It's very subtle in the frame that it appears that they put the actual cartoon. If you can tell on the right side of that picture, it's the cartoons from the original show. It's just some very subtle signaling they've got going there.
You know, Jonas, you may have a job in this kind of industry if you can pick up those minute details. Well played. The new trailer for the upcoming Ahsoka show teases a big change to Star Wars Rebels through the characters of Sabine Wren and Ezra Bridger. Since the announcement of the Ahsoka series, many have assumed it will serve as Star Wars Rebels Season 5. This was all but confirmed by Dave Filoni himself, especially bolstered by the centrality of the Star Wars Rebels characters of Sabine, Ezra, Hera Syndulla, and Grand Admiral Thrawn to the show. With the new Ahsoka trailer finally released, more information has been revealed about the upcoming Star Wars adventure. Taking center stage in the trailer besides the titular character herself was Sabine Wren, who seems to be the secondary protagonist of the show. Through what was seen in the new Ahsoka trailer concerning Sabine, it seems as though Ahsoka will feature some fairly game-changing retcons to Star Wars Rebels, and that also involves the character of Ezra Bridger. Now, folks, if you have watched the channel very much, you know that we have a Star Wars guru here who often weighs in. I consider him to be one of the brightest minds when it comes to Lucasfilm, period, that being Lorne Connor. Lorne has also been very positive about Star Wars up until the last 6, 7, 8 months, as he's begun to realize that this just is not going anywhere. Here is his take on what he saw with the trailer. He says, I would say some of the effects work looks improved, but Mary Elizabeth Winstead makes an awful Hera. Making Sabine a Jedi will not work. They're wildly overestimating audience appetite for more girl power, and it's going to be a terrible bastardization of the Heir to the Empire trilogy. Filoni has taken his character's self-insert nature too far, and it could doom the series. All right, gentlemen, let's hand it over to you now. I've seen the trailer. I don't know how audiences are going to react, but I have some thoughts. I have some predictions, and that is that I think that Disney and Lucasfilm have far, far, far overestimated just how much more people are interested in sort of this girl power trope. There are very few men even in the trailer at all, period. It is just woman after woman after woman. And that would be fine if this was Hunger Games or if this was a female-centric franchise. But this is Star Wars. And I don't know what the marketing play is. Script, what the heck's going on?
I wish I had answers for you. The best that I could... Well, one thing I could correct is that I would argue that the female characters are not Dave Filoni self-inserts, but rather Dave Filoni fantasy spouses.
Okay, yeah, I'll go with that.
These are the type of women he wishes he had relationships with, and he's crafting the perfect mate, essentially, for him. And he's been doing this since before Disney purchased Lucasfilm. One thing that kind of stood out initially with these live-action adaptations of Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels characters that were not previously seen in the live action films that Lucas produced, is that Ashley Eckstein, who voiced the original Ahsoka, she played the character with a little bit more of humor, joviality, passion, dedication. And Rosario Dawson is being directed to play this character stoic, soft, overly disciplined. But it just seems like there's no connectivity between those two performances. They don't feel like the same person.
Yes, I would agree, because the adult Ahsoka that appears in Rebels, I mean, she's an adult in Clone Wars, whatever, but the more grown Ahsoka that appears in Rebels is kind of a melancholic person, because she's dealing with a lot of baggage and things like that. I would never call her stoic in that, because she's going to face off against her former master. There's a lot of course, that parallelism with Luke Skywalker going off to also fight Darth Vader. I think that they are trying to make Ahsoka into the new form of a Jedi Master, and that we're gonna diminish all these older ones, these other ideas of it. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh no, he was a loser too, by the way. If you saw the series, Luke, he's a loser. He's off on an island on his own because he can't figure out how to be a Jedi. But no, Ahsoka, she's just been wandering out in the universe somewhere. When they needed her, she wasn't there. She was just off being wise.
I'll tell you, this very much feels like getting her ready to make some sort of cameo in the Rey movie. Also, that's what it feels like to me.
It feels like they're setting the pieces to have a secret Jedi Order that has been, working its ways in the shadows, helping people without being brought into attention, and that perhaps maybe, and this is speculation because I have no source to confirm this is actually where they're going, but I'm just trying to speculate based on the breadcrumbs being laid out, that perhaps maybe the idea of the Rey film is that Rey teaching her new students uncovers this secret Jedi Order that has been slowly building back up under the under Ahsoka and maybe Sabine Wren and what have you. And this feels like what might the Heir of the Empire might be. It might be a prequel show. Ahsoka might be a prequel show specifically to show that the Jedi have always been around underneath, spreading rumors, spreading stories of their actions, but putting all the attention on Luke Skywalker so that they can operate covertly. That's my speculation based on my knowledge of Dave Filoni and his derivative level of writing, based on the fact that we know he's the one that's going to be directing a live action Star Wars movie that was announced at D23. It was around a time that they showed some teasers of this very show that we're talking about with the trailer that dropped.
Yeah, I think all that makes sense.
The only thing that I would defy you on there is I bet that we're going to find there's going to be something that is not a Jedi that is introduced in this series. It'll be a Force user, a light and a dark Force user of some kind. But I think they're actually, I'm just guessing here, I think they're going to get away from Jedi because they want a new merchandising arm, and they would rather judge the Jedi than use them as a tool to prop up heroes.
Well, gentlemen, let me ask you this on the marketing side. Let's go to this because I think this is the fascinating part to me. The trailer to me looks like trash. I mean, I really did not enjoy it. I mean, let's just be honest. It does not look good. I don't see that this is going to connect well with any kind of Star Wars fans. Perhaps there's a very small demographic out there that is excited about this. I can't imagine who it is. But when we look at what just happened with Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, the latest thing out of Lucasfilm, it's now projected to hit $300 million worldwide, and that's where it's going to probably stop. That is horrendous. I mean, even when I was predicting the worst for it, I was saying 450. 300 is just trash tier. This is unbelievable. Now, Kathleen Kennedy is presiding over that, of course. She has presided over the destruction of so many franchises. We've got this trailer coming out now, which, off the heels of Phoebe Waller-Bridge and what happened there with Indiana Jones, talk about poor timing to now have a Star Wars, trailer that, sure, it's supposed to star Ahsoka, but every character in it is the Force's female over and over and over again. And from a marketing standpoint, I just, I don't see how Lucasfilm can continue any longer. They are literally making shows for nobody. So, gentlemen, who at Disney is going to put a stop to this at some point and say, you know what? There's no audience here. Why are we spending hundreds of millions of dollars for no audience?
That's a very good question. I would propose the fact that I don't think Disney's ever going to see that, because a vast majority of what they've of the demographic that they've sold to was for girls. I mean,
well, yes, but the girls they're not interested.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. They're not interested, and they're going to keep pushing it that way until they find the magic formula where it's actually going to work. And I think they'll be doing that until they're blue in the face.
Right. There's a great mathematical conundrum here that you've brought up in the past, Pro, of, okay, now the audience is more female for Star Wars. Is that because they've grown the female audience? Maybe a little bit, but mostly it's that they've driven the male fans away.
Yes.
Well, they've certainly. I mean, if you look at the Indiana Jones stuff, that is the low for the entire franchise without adjusting for inflations. So it's unbelievable, and you have to know now. Of course, we believe that they lost money not only on Solo, a Star Wars story, but also on the rise of Palpatine, aka the rise of Skywalker. We believe they lost money on both of those. If this series collapses, we already have sources telling us that, the recommendation from consultation firms out there is stop. Save your merchandise, save Baby Yoda. Stop. You're killing this thing.
Well, that's the
trailer doesn't make me feel better about it.
Yeah, there are no new toys that we're aware of from this. You've got the whatever Ray Stevenson's character is, I suppose, but there are already figures for Harrison Dula and Ahsoka and Ezra Bridger and Chopper. Yeah, you have your Dave Filoni character literally right there in Chopper, the droid. He got his own little moment in the trailer there. The good news is with Mandalorian season 3. They might be better by comparison. I don't think Star Wars Visions or Young Jedi Adventures made it onto the top 10. That either of those was expected to perform at Mandalorian season 1 or 2 numbers. So it might do better levels,
or Coco Melon levels.
Well,
we can keep going.
Yeah, the new season of Bluey, or at least for the stateside release of Bluey, came out today, and that is the primary tile right next to the new episode of Secret Invasion. I wouldn't be surprised if that new episode of Secret Invasion doesn't even hit the top 10. Whereas Bluey, it's just more grist for the mill there. That is just going to add to the dominance of Bluey on the Disney Plus streaming service, and they don't even own Bluey. So they obviously need more content on Disney Plus, so they don't have the option of stopping right now. They've got Skeleton Crew coming out. So far, as from what we know about the cast list of Skeleton Crew, it has a male lead in Jude Law. It has a male director with John Watts. So if the Force is female, I think the Skeleton Crew is probably not going to have a lot of Force users in it. That's a guess. That's just because it's a non-Force user main character. I don't know what exactly goes on in Dave Filoni's head, but I have a feeling that all the wise characters are going to end up being women, and all the ones that actually achieve big things are going to end up being women.
Script, let's talk about that then. When The Mandalorian came out, fans rejoiced because it felt like somebody finally understood Star Wars. It felt like a repudiation of the sequel trilogy, a return to the vision of George Lucas. There was plenty of mystery behind it, and fans didn't know where that was going to go, and there was trepidation about did it connect with the stories that they loathed. But they gave it a chance, and then, of course, we know that Lucasfilm blew that all up. But I don't suspect that Jon Favreau came into The Mandalorian thinking, this will be a great stepping stone for Dave Filoni to get to bring all of his cartoon characters into real life and take over what I'm doing. That's what it feels like now. So, script, is this just an opportunity for Filoni to take over the Favreau work and make it his own now?
Well, he's been doing this. Filoni's done this from the start, because in one of the interviews that Jon Favreau made, he talked about how he reached out to Kathleen Kennedy, said he had an idea for a show, and she responded with, "You know what? That sounds great. You should work with Dave Filoni because he is a Star Wars expert." And that's how those two got together, and that's how they developed and made The Mandalorian. And slowly, like a frog in a warm pot of water slowly coming to a boil, Filoni has taken over the series. Like that first episode of The Mandalorian was actually quite decent. It did have some aspects to it that were kind of pointless and wasted the limited time that they were using with the episode. But the one thing that set it apart is the fact that we finally, for the very first time, saw a new part of Star Wars that we'd only ever either read about in some of the books or only heard about in really small snippets of dialogue throughout the movies and some of the cartoon series. We had never seen a planet that was completely separated from the core Civil War issue, especially one now that's post, Star Wars Civil War. So we're just basically seeing a world, a small section of the galaxy, kind of in the throes of recovery from the Empire's occupation, and it was interesting, and it had a lot of potential, but it ultimately went nowhere because Dave Filoni is the type of fan who may have an encyclopedic knowledge of Star Wars, but I don't think he has a proper understanding of what Star Wars is, why it is what it is, what it's been inspired by, and what it tries to do with regards to fantasy stories and exploring humanity and difficult choices. He is the type of fan that thinks everything has to be Jedi related, everything has to have lightsabers, everything has to have space battles, and he doesn't ever explore the themes of family, the themes of hoping, the themes of a legend failing to live up to the legend only to be inspired to reach their potential because of those that around them that support who they are. He doesn't get that stuff. He's never nailed it. He is basically the 12-year-old kid hopping up and down on the couch, singing the Star Wars theme song and making noises, lightsaber noises, and saying, that's what I'm going to make Star Wars about now. And that's kind of what we've been getting from him.
You make a really good point, Script. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go right ahead.
Here's the thing about this trailer. And when you think about a lot of Dave Filoni's live action work, I do think if it were animated, if it were the exact same thing, even in animation as opposed to live action, it would go over a lot better. And animation gets a pass that live action does not, because there's a sense of realism and a sense of otherworldliness. The difference there being the realism in the live action and the otherworldliness in the cartoon stuff. His animated stuff is about the same level of scripting, and it goes over a lot better. If this was another season of Rebels, a literal other season of Rebels, I think it would be fine. But the fact that we're seeing these cartoony, not quite real, uncanny images of these cartoon characters, I think it takes everything out of it. And that comment about him writing at about a 12-year-old level of maturity, that really speaks to that idea for me.
Yeah, and and the other part too is Filoni has had zero experience working in any other genre, any other property, anything original. He's only lived in Star Wars. And listen, personally, I know there's fans out there of the Clone Wars and Rebels. I find them incredibly insulting to my intelligence to watch. And I would find them incredibly insulting to a child as well, because they do not rise to the level of what a story is, which is that it doesn't a good children's story appeals to the child's desire to grow up, but it's also a warning with regards to how difficult being grown up and essentially responsible for yourself is. Those are what the themes of writing for children is. It's not trying to keep them in a state of arrested development, which I would argue Clone Wars, Rebels, and anything else David Filoni has thrown his name behind is trying to do. And because of that, we are seeing a negative impact in the audience that grew up with these stories and kind of realizing, you know what? It's got the veneer of Star Wars, but it doesn't have the heart of Star Wars.
I would agree with you. There's only about 50% or less of Clone Wars and Rebels that is actually quality television, even in the animation genre. For these moments where they really get to lean hard on the John Williams, George Lucas Star Wars stuff and fill in those gaps, there's also a droid squad and a giant kaiju trying to take over Coruscant so he can eat the Emperor, and all kinds of bizarre, weird stuff that you could really only do in a child's cartoon series.
Let's ask two big questions then that I think this conversation is headed towards. My first question for both of you is, and you can take this in any order you'd like. The trailer is out. I'm curious, how damaging is this trailer to the level of interest in the show? If there's any damage at all, maybe nobody cared in the first place. And then second of all, for quite a while, Dave Filoni was kind of a beloved figure inside the Star Wars community. Now, not everybody loved his content, but it was seen as a positive that he was working with Favreau largely I wonder if this series fails, how much does the Filoni star dim as well? So it's sort of the same question, two sides of the coin, right? How much did this trailer hurt, and how much could this show hurt Filoni? Whichever order you guys want to take that in.
I'll defer to Jonas Campbell first.
That's fine, because I think your insight is going to be more attuned than mine. I think that Disney right now, of course, the success of Rebels will be tied to Filoni, but I don't think they'll ever walk him out the door. They need someone there for continuity, regardless. And I don't think anyone is going to take him away from Lucasfilm. He is so synonymous with Lucasfilm right now, more so than Kathleen Kennedy, because when Kathleen Kennedy comes up, she's kind of this amorphous subject to a lot of fans of everything you don't like is probably something to do with this studio executive who doesn't have day-to-day influence over the story. That's not to say that she's not done some horrible things with Star Wars, but she's not in there writing the lines of dialogue that we all cringe over. I think that Dave Filoni is probably going to continue on with Lucasfilm until he retires, because I don't think he's desired anywhere else. He did well with Avatar, and that got the attention of George Lucas, and then he was brought over to Lucasfilm. I don't see him going anywhere at all. And whoever the next executive, he will be the next executive at Lucasfilm's problem to deal with.
Well, Script, if this series fails, though, does it diminish the chances that we actually get a Mandoverse movie out of Filoni? Does it show that he's perhaps not up to the task?
I would say because of his and for those that are confused, Avatar: The Last Airbender is the one thing that Dave Filoni kind of worked on, not the James Cameron stuff.
Right, exactly. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Was he in charge of Cabbage Man? Is that what we're saying?
He was a TV director, which basically means he did storyboards to a degree. Sure. And then immediately after that, he was brought into Star Wars. And one thing you have to remember is that, technically speaking, at Lucasfilm, Dave Filoni has seniority over Kathleen Kennedy. And I think he's going to be able to use that for quite a moment, quite some time. And as a result,
his cachet has grown after Indy. How's that?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think it doesn't matter if this fails. I don't think it's going to hurt Dave Filoni, because he does have a lot of influence over Star Wars. He is a continuity master of it. He is the encyclopedia of it. He can quote you Star Wars, but he probably doesn't understand the meaning of what those quotes are. I know there's a number of people that have worked for him specifically, and not with George Lucas at all, but for him, and have anointed him as the successor to George Lucas. And even Filoni himself has alluded to that, even though George Lucas has never appointed anyone or publicly stated anything. And I don't even think he's ever stated anything positive about Dave Filoni, actually, other than the fact that he likes working with him.
And that's very much in George Lucas's style.
Yes.
Anthony Daniels said one time that C-3PO, that Anthony Daniels he did a pretty good job. And you should see Anthony Daniels' reaction to that. I mean, we're talking 30 years of Star Wars in one positive statement about C-3PO.
You did a pretty good job.
Yeah, that's the other part too. For a man like George Lucas, with his vivid imagination, his ability to communicate is very much in desire, to be desired. And I think that's why he's not quite revered as a good director, because he doesn't convey what performances he needs from his actors. But aside from that, on George Lucas's part, with regards to David Filoni, I think he is like a parasite. He is so far much ingrained in the actual studio itself that unless someone really does have it out for him and wants to gut the entire studio, he is not going to go anywhere, regardless of how many times he fails, because what he can basically say is he's contributing more to the quote unquote authentic canon of Star Wars with his shows, that he's always going to have a diehard fan base that have been with him since his start on the Clone Wars back in around 2008, 2009. Mm-hmm. And so any of those kids there that are probably in their early 20s today or late teens, they're most likely going to remain attached to this series until he retires. And I think, Jonas, you're absolutely right. He is not going anywhere. He's going to be the first person that will die at his desk at Lucasfilm.
Well, I think we've covered the big points about this trailer. Of course, folks, we will wait until the show comes out to pronounce it good or bad, and we'll review those episodes as best we can. Now, that depends on viewership. If nobody's watching, it's pretty tough to devote time to it, but we'll see how that goes. For Lucasfilm, this could be a trifecta or perhaps even more. I forgot about Willow, but this could be a quadruple failure in 1 year. You had The Mandalorian come out, and during that same time, lose hundreds of thousands of subscribers for Disney+. You had Willow taken off the service for a tax write-down. You've had Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, become one of the biggest flops, biggest failures in all of cinematic history. And now by September, we should start to see some of these viewership numbers out of Nielsen for Ahsoka. So can Lucasfilm keep it down to a triple threat of turds? Or will this increase?
Are you not counting Galactic Star Cruiser as a Lucasfilm failure, or are you counting that as a Disney Parks and Experiences failure?
Jonas, we can only handle so much disappointment on this show. Only so much disappointment. There's a certain bandwidth. And yes, Lucasfilm, you are very good at exceeding it. Well, folks, that's a wrap for the conversation here. But the commentary just begins. Drop a comment down below and let us know what you think. Are you a fan of Mr. Filoni? Do you think we've been too harsh? Do you think we've been just right? And what did you think about the Ahsoka trailer? Are you watching it and thinking with your head shaking, no, I can't believe they're doing this again? Or did you watch and say, it looks okay? Let us know down below. Script Doctor, where can people find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there?
You can find me on Twitter at ScriptDoctorPhD. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/ScriptDoctor. And if you are a screenwriter or looking to get into writing or understand why story works the way it works when it's successful, feel free to take a look at my Patreon. The base tier has a 7-day free trial. Check it out. If you like it, I'd appreciate your support. And again, thank you so much for having me on today to talk with you, wonderful gentlemen.
Well, it's always a pleasure. One of these days, Lucasfilm is going to give us a happy topic. But so far, they're nearly perfect in preventing that. Jonas, where can people find you?
You can find me here on the Pro Show, Thursdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm an investigative reporter for That Park Place. I got a Twitter handle that I would love to interact with you all, at Jonas J. Campbell. And I have a series going on my channel with my name called Everything Woke, where I go through all the content and all the interesting ideologies they're trying to slip into children's entertainment.
Absolutely. And Jonas, who is our special guest on the Pro Show this week?
Oh, we are having Mr. Eric July of the Rippaverse tomorrow, and it's going to be, I am so excited. I haven't gotten a chance to read Isom yet. I'm hoping my copy shows up soon.
Folks, if you've ever wondered what Eric July thinks about Deadpool 3 and Hugh Jackman joining as Wolverine in the yellow suit, tune in for that show because we're going to be asking about that and more, so it's going to be a great, great time. Well, folks, we hope you had a great time with this. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Floral, it's time for you to walk the plank.
What? Why?
Because you haven't subscribed to WDW Pro yet. Nor bookmark thatparkplace.com on your web browser to get great articles from great contributors.
What?